Starting today, you'll have access to the live stream in your class chat button on the homepage. So all the lessons will be live streamed after today. Had to get through some logistics with YouTube. But a good graces. Alrighty. So we do need to, if you haven't finished with your crime scene report, make sure you get that done. And we're going to look at where I'm in Canvas right now under the heading of securing the crime scene. So I want you to give that a read for a few minutes while we wait on some more folks to come in. And then I'm going to show a short video. Today's our short day. So again, go back and check that you covered all the bases with your crime scene report, that you have listed yourself as the responding officer. So these are observations that you are making as the responding officer. Okay. When I go to grade it, I'm going to look for 10 points to be mentioned. And the heaviest points being question number 6 are the observations that you made of the crime scene. So we're going to look at securing the crime scene today and the things that you need to do. Alrighty, where did my video disappear to? All right, let's see. I'm gonna try something. Here come. Still letting folks in. All right, good morning, good morning. All right, we're in Canvas, we're in securing the crime scene. All right, so let me see if this actually works. All right, so what I was saying, you should be able to go to class videos now. And there'll be and there we are. But I'm going to, yeah, I can watch it from there. Okay, wait a second. Okay, everything I set up disappears. Now I can't make everything disappear. Because I was sharing and now I'm not sharing. It's going to be one of those mornings. Okay, stop. Stay. I was sharing and then it disappeared. At least you all are still there. I'm going to try this one more time. Yeah. All right, here we go.
7 steps that have to be followed in chronological order, starting with securing the crime scene.
There are 7 steps that she's going to talk about, so kind of have yes, please. All right, so have a little piece of paper out so that you can write down the 7 steps. I'll pause them as she goes through them, but there are 7 steps in sketching a crime scene. Okay. All right. Again.
Responders can assist. They'll secure the crime scene. That's where that yellow crime scene tape goes up. Officers barricade the crime scene and just make sure that anybody who enters the crime scene, they're documented on the crime scene log. Simultaneously, you have witnesses that are going to be separated. So if there are any witnesses at the crime scene, they're separated, they're questioned by detectives. In step 3, investigators are going to do a quick scan of the crime scene, and any evidence that just jumps out at them, they're going to mark with evidence markers. In seeing the scene, which is the next step, investigators are going to start taking pictures of the evidence that's been marked. And then in sketching the scene, which is the next step, investigators are going to make a crime scene sketch, and that is our focus in today's lesson. After the crime scene is sketched and evidence is photographed, then a full complete search is conducted by the investigation team, where they declare a search pattern and they do a full search of the crime scene, and then any new evidence that's found is marked, photographed, and added to the sketch. And then finally, in the last step of crime scene investigation, evidence is secured and collected and packaged according to the chain of custody. So those are the 7 steps of crime scene investigation. And when we went through that lesson, I told you that we would come back and do a separate lesson for sketching the scene, and that is where we are today. So today's objective is to learn the process and procedures for sketching a crime scene. Now, once a crime scene has been photographed, and sometimes in the midst of evidence being photographed, investigators will need to sketch the scene. So the crime scene sketch is an invaluable aid in recording what we call investigative data. And a crime scene sketch is going to depict the overall layout of a location and the relationship of evidentiary items to the surroundings. So this is basically showing the layout of the crime scene and the placement of evidence relative to each other. There are 3 different sketches that can be executed at a crime scene. The most common sketch is called an overview. So we're going to just briefly go through each of the 3 types. An overview sketch is just a bird's eye view or floor plan, if you will. So if you were standing above the crime scene looking down, you would notice, or you would see, an overview. So you can see on the screen that we have the perimeter of the crime scene and we have some measurements. We can see that there's a filing cabinet present at this crime scene, a bookcase, a desk, there's a locker, we have some doors, a couch, there's some windows. We have a legend here that tells us that this piece of evidence, evidence A, is a crowbar. We also have directionality here. We have a note telling us that this is just a rough sketch of the crime scene. We'll talk about the importance of that in just a second. And then some other information about the crime scene. So this is what we call an overview sketch or a bird's eye view. Another type of crime scene sketch is called an elevation sketch, and this is done when we have like uneven ground or a home or landscape that has different levels, and this just portrays a vertical plane. It's almost like how you would draw it if you were standing parallel to the scene, looking at the scene. Again, though, you'll have measurements, you'll have important information about the scene, you'll also have directionality. The third type of crime scene sketch is an exploded view, or it's also called a cross projection view. And this just consists of a combination of the 2 previous types of sketches, so overview and elevation. It's very similar to a floor plan, except it's like the walls have been laid out flat. So let me show you a picture of what that looks like. Okay, so this cross projection sketch, it's like if you had a house and you cut the walls and laid them out flat, this is what you get. So you have a bird's eye view here in the center portion, and then you can see the windows to the room, the door to the room. I don't know if this is a sink and a couch. Maybe this is some sort of drawer. Again, though, we have a legend, we have a scale, we have directionality, and we have information about the crime scene. Now, measurements should be made without disturbing the crime scene. So one of the things we noticed in these sketches that we were looking at is they all contained measurements. So measurements are important to crime scene sketches, but they have to be made without disturbing evidence or disturbing the crime scene. Graph paper should be used when creating a sketch, and this is to ensure that the sketch is drawn to scale. So what typically happens is investigators will do what's called a rough sketch at the crime scene, where they just kind of sketch out by hand on graph paper the perimeter and then all the parts of the crime scene and all the evidence, and then they'll take it back to an office and use a computer program like a CAD program to just spruce it up and make it look nice, because oftentimes these sketches will be shown in court to a jury, and it needs to make sense. Now, for the rough sketch, if investigators do just draw a rough sketch by hand and it's not drawn to scale, they'll just have to indicate that it's not to scale. Some equipment that's needed for sketching the crime scene: graph paper, pencils. Because you have to take measurements, you're going to want measuring devices. So this could be tape measures, surveyor wheels. A lot of investigators use digital or laser rangefinders. And then a really cool contraption that's being used by a lot of forensic investigators is something called the total station, and it just does a 3-dimensional scan of the crime scene and then creates a 3-dimensional digital version of the crime scene that is very elaborate. For investigators to determine directionality, you need some sort of compass, and of course rulers and maybe a clipboard. Some evidence, like a body, will need to be triangulated. So triangulation is measuring the distance between the evidence and 2 fixed points. And what this does is create sort of a triangle. And so this is why we call it triangulation. So you can see in this picture here, we have a victim, and what the investigator has done is measured from the victim's head to a fixed point at the crime scene. So this corner wall here, and they determined that was 36 inches. And then they measured from the victim's foot to another fixed point in the room, and they indicated that this was 240 inches. And this would just give jury members or anybody who's looking at the sketch an idea of where this body is in relation to other areas of the room. Now on the sketch, true north should be labeled. So this is, I referred to this earlier as directionality, and a scale of distance should also be provided on the sketch. When applicable, the sketch should include a legend or key. So you can see here in this sketch, we have a victim, we have a couch, and then we have evidence that is lettered. Well, we need to know what those letters mean. So there is a legend or a key here that tells us that D is a cigarette butt, A is a glass with brandy, H is a black felt tip Papermate pen. Now, the rough sketch can be converted into a digital representation of the crime scene. Oftentimes, that's not going to be done on the scene. A lot of times, that's done back at the investigator or sketch artist office.
Hey, Georgia! Living Spaces is now open in Buford, the first store in the state off 85 in Grouse.
All right, what we're going to do at this point, because you are going to have to actually perform a sketch. You're going to have to sketch a little mock crime scene, and so you need to know the steps. How are you going to go about doing that? And so I'm going to walk you through 6 steps of sketching a crime scene. So here's where you start. Step 1, you're going to start by drawing an outline or the perimeter of the area on a piece of graph paper. You're going to want to include windows. So we use these little rectangles here to represent windows, and then doors are going to be represented by openings in the outline. So step 1 is drawing the perimeter. Step 2, you're going to measure the perimeter of the room, and you're going to indicate those distances on your graph paper. So you can see here that this crime scene is 32 feet by 26 feet. Step 3, you're going to sketch in any furniture or any immovable pieces at the crime scene. So if this is an outdoor crime scene, you might have a tree that you sketch. Here we have an indoor crime scene, so you'd want to sketch any furniture or anything that you think is important to understanding the layout of the room. All right, sketch evidence marked with evidence markers. So remember, when we are working a crime scene, prior to the sketch, evidence has been marked and photographed. So it is very important that the evidence shows up on the sketch. So if investigators have marked evidence with evidence markers, that evidence needs to be included on the crime scene sketch. All right, step 4, we want to label the diagram with the date, the time, the location, and the victim's name if you know it. An unknown victim is commonly given the name John Doe if it's male or Jane Doe if it's female. In the 5th step, you're going to triangulate. So again, that's where you take, you're going to make 2 measurements from a fixed point in the crime scene or at the crime scene to that piece of evidence. Typically, investigators do this with each piece of evidence. So if you have 30 pieces of evidence at a crime scene, you can imagine how crowded or messy this might get on a crime scene sketch. So these measurements can be noted on a separate document or on the actual sketch. All right, the final step, you want to indicate true north on the sketch. So this is why it's important to have a compass, figure out where north is in relation to your crime scene. And then as you can see here on this crime scene sketch, we've included it so that a jury or any other investigators looking at this crime scene sketch can kind of understand where the crime scene is in relation to north. All right, that ends our lesson today, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we will cover photographing.
Alrighty. So this one is in your playlist now. And you can rewatch it there if you wish. All right, so in the time that's left, I'm gonna give time for people because today's Wednesday. We typically don't do new things on Wednesday, as we just did. Give you a chance to finish up anything that you need to finish up, like a couple of people who need to turn in some missing assignments already. So let's get that caught up and go back and look at, so that was securing the crime scene. Go back and read that over. I need to stop sharing, do attendance, and I'll get back at you in just a sec. Stop sharing. Okay. And I do appreciate that most of you do have at least have your camera. Some of you are looking at the ceiling, but at least your camera's on. I lost somebody. Somebody just dropped out. Don't do that, folks. And Zoom has been going in and out, and I'm going to try my best to be aware of when you get kicked out so I can get you back in as fast as possible. Because it has been kind of flaky lately. Okay. Okay. Yes, they did a thing yesterday. Mr. Phillips told us that you really shouldn't be able to look at the grades on the course page. Where you should be looking at your grades is in the, let me go to the page and then da, 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 da. Page. You should the Learning Vault. So is it there that you're not able to look at? So if you go to the Learning Vault, you should see grades there. So let me know if you can't see them there, and then we have a problem. But other than that, there should not be a tab. That's what you meant in the Learning Vault. Okay. Well, then I do need to fix that because that's where you should be able to see it. Okay, so let's see what's wrong with that. Okay, so I will put that in as a problem and get that straightened out. Because I know the tab on the side that says grades, you can't see that. But they told us you're supposed to be able to see your grades from the Learning Vault. So let me see something here. Natalie said she can see hers. Is there anybody? Okay, this is Ethan said he can't see his. Anybody else cannot? Everybody go check. Look at the Learning Vault and see if you can see your grades. Right now, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 grades. Well, you'll have 4 grades when I grade the crime scene report. I've graded it for some people, so some people actually do have all 4 of their grades. But you should have 4. So is there anybody else who cannot see that, or is this something Ethan needs to address with Mr. Phillips? So go to your, what do you call it? The Learning Vault. Okay, let me do. So how are you seeing your grades if not through the Learning Vault? Homepage of the course. Okay, yes, the homepage of the course should have, I'm going to share. I'm going to share. My share button seems to not want to share. Okay. Why is it doing that? Okay, on this spot right here. What is my thingy doing? My computer is showing me all kinds of things. It says the grade page is not. That's what it says. See, yeah. So this one is telling you that you're not able to access it. Okay, so when you, so I need to say that there are a couple of people when you click on Learning Vault. I got some people saying they can see it and some people can't. Do you not get this? Okay, I'm going to get a little conversation about that going. Because it's now I can see grades of the class, but they can't. I can see the grades for each class. Okay. Alrighty. So I will make an inquiry about that. Yes, that's 2 of you saying that it's disabled. 3 of you saying it's disabled. Okay. I will make that inquiry. So is there any other place other than the Learning Vault that you can see your grades? So you can see an overall grade, but you can't see the individual assignment grades. Okay. I will inquire about that. Okay. Anybody else want to chip in and tell me what you can see and what you can't see? Okay, we're gonna go back over here. And we do this as student view. Okay. Right now you should have, so of the 4 things that are on the screen right now, you should have a grade for each of these except for the crime scene activity. I might not have graded your, did the practice down here. I might not have graded that for you yet. Yes, that was interesting. And I'm going to do that from time to time. So not every day I'll have a thought question of the day, but I will try to do that on a regular basis just to get you up thinking about crime and things of that nature. Okay. So I will make a note of that and I will ask what's up with that? And if there's something I need to be doing, because it should be that like that. Like, so when you see, I don't know how it works for you all. So when you click on the assignment, does it give you a grade up here in the corner? Because I don't know how it works on your end. I can only see what it's doing on mine. So I would imagine if I had graded it, would it not give you how many points you got on that part? Ethan, can you see that? I'm gonna go back. So this is what I did. Oops. Yeah, reload. Oh no, it's just gonna reload the page. All right, that's not what I want. I want to be on the home page. Yes, I want to leave. Okay, so let's save that here. Let's do August. Let's start with that one. So when you click on each of these, it has a thing up here at the top. So this one actually tells me this it's missing. So on your side, does it give you a grade when you click on it like this? Yes. Okay, so you are able to see if I graded it or not. All right. Well, for the time being, it does, but I like to look at. Yeah, I will ask about that because he did say that you should be able to go to the Learning Vault, but so the Learning Vault is only giving you an overall average. Is that what you're saying? Okay, okay, I see. All right, well, at least you can see it from here from now, and I will ask about like how I have my grade book. I can look across and see all your grades at one time. So that's what you want to see. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. All righty. Well, we'll work that out. All right, peoples, we got like 2 minutes left. Any other questions? Any other dilemmas I need to work out? If not, you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all Friday.